Welcome, friends. This is A Course in Miracles, Palm Beach Study Group. We're on Chapter 13, Section 6, Finding the Present. In the book, it's on page 250 in the text. To perceive truly is to be aware of all reality through the awareness of your own. But for this, no illusions can rise to meet your sight, for reality leaves no room for any error. This means that you perceive a brother only as you see him now. His past has no reality in the present, so you cannot see it. Your past reactions to him are also not there, and if it is to them that you react, you see but an image of him that you made and cherish instead of him. In your questioning of illusions, ask yourself if it is really sane to perceive what was as now. If you remember the past as you look upon your brother, you will be unable to perceive the reality that is now. So this follows from a few weeks ago when we were talking about time and how time only exists in the ego world, not in the spirit world. There is no past, there is no future, there's only the now. And from the spiritual perspective, the now is eternal. It's eternally now. So they're speaking about that. They're also speaking about that the reality of a person is that they are a spiritual being, just as you are a spiritual being. As a matter of fact, they are you and you are them from Spirit's point of view, because there's only one of us in Spirit. And so they're talking about the difference of seeing with ego eyes and seeing with spirit eyes. So to perceive truly, that's meaning from Spirit's point of view. To perceive truly is to be aware of all reality. Reality is a key word for Spirit. Through the awareness of your own. In other words, through our ego awareness. Do you have a question, Ed?
Yes. If now is eternal, and then like today, and today becomes yesterday, then now is no longer eternal. It's the ego world. That's confusing to me.
Yes, because you're trying to understand it from the ego's perspective, and you can't. Let's go back to the time only exists in the ego. There is no time in the spirit. So it's a complete illusion. When we say the now is in spirit, that it's always now, that it's eternally now in spirit, that's the same thing as saying there is no time in spirit.
So your car doesn't run out of gas.
You don't even have a car to run out of gas, because there's no third dimensional reality in spirit. There is no bodies.
So if you bang your hand against a sharp edge and it bleeds, it's not really bleeding.
Again, you're mixing up the ego world with the spirit world. In the spirit world, you don't have a hand. You are pure energy. You're pure spirit. You're not a body. You're only a body in the ego world. In the ego world, yes, you have past, present, and future because there's time in the ego world. In the ego world, yes, you can cut your hand and bleed. But all of that is part of the illusion. From spirit's point of view, there are no bodies. Everything is just pure isness, and everything is just pure eternity. So there's no time or space in spirit.
So when you die, you're no longer cognizant of the spirit world. You just kind of, we've had of what?
Well, I see you, Ben, but hold on for a second. There's speculation about when you die because you're not dead. So you're trying to figure out what is it dead when you're still alive. But if you are connected with your spiritual self and you realize that you have been in bodies and have died many times in the past, then you can have a glimpse of the after death. And there are plenty of clairvoyant and psychic people and readings and literature about this, that you return to the state of energy that you were in before you incarnated in the body.
You're no longer cognizant.
Of course you are. You're even more cognizant because you can remember now all of your past lives, and you can remember and realize the oneness of spirit when you cross over into the spirit world. You're 1,000% more cognizant.
Want to try it?
But you have to just take that on faith at this point. Okay, Ben, if you unmute, then you can speak.
Yeah. This here and now, the way I see it, at least, you were born and you'll die. In between is something that has to be in relation to the environment, the language, your name, your social security if you live in the United States. Other countries, they have their own. In other words, it's something that appears and disappears, but it really doesn't appear and doesn't disappear. It's something that comes from somewhere. Life comes from life. So there's no beginning and there's no end. It's just an illusion of form and attachment to the form. But the form dissipates to the elements, and you come back from the elements back again and again and again as other forms. It's like awareness. You remember something today, and tomorrow you forgot about it. You forgot about all things right now that you remember before, but now you don't remember. And you cannot even remember it because you forgot about it. What that means, did you ever live those memories? Or do you remember everything absolutely? You don't remember. What you do reconstruction of your memory every moment, every second.
Okay.
they could-
Then
Yeah.
why bother to live? Then why bother to live? We can just be up there in this.
No, it's not something you in control, you know. Nobody's in control of this. There's a force that is in control. And you'll die eventually. You don't have to worry about it. It will happen. But it's not something you should worry about at all. You should worry about maybe living. Look at the end of the sun, the rainbow. Beautiful rainbows out there when it rains.
What's the purpose in living then?
Looking at rainbows,
Oh,
stuff like that. You don't. There is no purpose. It's up to you. It's your present. Is to find a purpose in this life.
so we don't see anything when we're in the spirit world. We won't see rainbows then.
No, you see whatever you want to see. That's your present. Like the miracle.
I think you only see it as love.
Folks, I
I
appreciate
stop.
I appreciate your conversation on the one hand. On the other hand, we're not focusing on what the course is trying to teach us. And we're just on the first paragraph. So I'm going to go back and try to reread this and interpret it again. And may I ask that you just try to absorb it and understand what's being said and put aside all of the questions at the time being. So, starting at the beginning, to perceive truly, that means to perceive from the spiritual side of things, is to be aware of all reality, is to be aware of the spirit world through the awareness of your own as your individual consciousness. But for this, no illusions can rise to meet your sight. In other words, no ego thinking can get in your way. If you want to perceive truly, you can't have the ego thinking get in your way. For reality, for spirit, leaves no room for any error because spirit is total perfection. This means that you perceive a brother only as you see him now. And here we're getting into time. We're saying that when you look at another person, you should see them in the now, see them from a spiritual point of view. His past has no reality in the present, because past is of ego, present is of spirit. So you cannot see it if you're seeing truly, if you're looking at it from spirit's point of view. But you see an image of him that you made and cherish instead of him, if you're looking at him from the ego's point of view, from the past, in other words, with judgment. If especially negative judgment. In your questioning of illusions, in your questioning of the ego, ask yourself if it is really sane to perceive what was as now. Is it sane to perceive the past as now? The answer is no. If you remember the past as you look upon your brother, you will be unable to perceive the reality that is now. In other words, if you look at your brother with ego eyes, you'll be unable to see him with spiritual eyes.
I think this is a really tough paragraph to understand. And in some respects. It involves forgiveness and judgment. And so, say if we have an experience with someone that leaves us feeling ill will towards that other person, our eyes are never going to see them in the now, in the present moment, because we're holding on to that past judgment, and we're not using forgiveness.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And what we're being asked to do is to put away that past judgment and to see everyone in the now from Spirit's point of view and release ourselves from all past judgment. So, which is the same thing as forgiving.
How far in the past? Yesterday?
All of the past.
By the time you get to heaven, it's all going to be gone.
Everything that you perceive before the now is the past in ego's point of view.
So if yesterday somebody behaves like a jerk, not 6 months ago, then we're going to anticipate, when we see him today, we're anticipating that he's no longer a jerk, or we have to see him as he is right now. Right?
The answer to that question is, if someone's behaving as a jerk and you perceive that, if you judge him as a jerk, you're judging with ego. And if you understand that he's being a jerk and you hold that against him and you judge him for it, then you're operating out of ego. If he's being a jerk and you can look at him and say, I know that truly you are a spiritual being and that you're just acting like a jerk because you're in your ego mind. But I am going to see you as a spiritual being and forgive the fact that you don't understand that you're a spiritual being, which is why you're operating out of ego and acting like a jerk.
But John,
And I'm not going to hold that against you.
But John, I think you also have to forgive yourself for forming that opinion.
If you formed the opinion and you hold it, then yeah. I mean, I can look at people and say, wow, you really did an evil thing, a negative thing. But I know you only did it because you don't understand that you're a spiritual being. Because if you did, you wouldn't have acted out that way. And so my judgment ultimately is that you're a spiritual being. And I'm going to choose to see you as a spiritual being, regardless of how you're acting out in ego. Which is like, you know, if you go back to Jesus, it's like they tortured him and hung him on the cross, but he didn't. He said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Again, they don't know what they're doing. They're operating out of ego. They have no clue what they're really doing. If they did, they wouldn't do this. So I forgive them.
The Palm Beach Post, there was a 2/3 of a page in the sports section about how Trump cheats at golf. How many times?
All right, okay. Let's not let's not start calling names.
Well, that's interesting because in order for me to really, in order for me to understand some of this, I had to think of the person that I couldn't stand the most and find a way to let that go and feel differently about that person.
Yes.
And it just happened to be Trump.
Okay.
And God forgive him that he becomes president.
All righty. Let's go on to number two.
I don't care about it either way.
Let's go on to paragraph 2. You consider it natural to use your past experience as the reference point from which to judge the present. Yet this is unnatural because it is delusional. When you have learned to look on everyone with no reference at all to the past, either his or yours as you perceive it, you will be able to learn from what you see now. For the past can cast no shadow to darken the present unless you are afraid of light. And only if you are would you choose to bring darkness with you. And by holding it in your mind, see it as a dark cloud that shrouds your brothers and conceals their reality from your sight. If you consider it natural to use your past experience as the reference point from which to judge the present, that is, if you're in the ego. Yet it is unnatural, it is of ego, because it is delusional to do that. When you have learned to look on everyone with no reference at all to the past, either his or yours as you perceived it, you will be able to learn from what you see now. In other words, when you're able to learn to see everything from Spirit's point of view, then you'll be seen in the now. For the past can cast no shadow to darken the present, unless you are afraid of light, which you would be if you're in the ego. And only if you would choose to bring darkness with you, if you're choosing ego, then by holding it in the light in your mind, you will see the dark cloud of ego that surrounds your brothers and yourself and conceals their true reality, their spiritual reality, from your sight.
And why do we put serial killers and rapists in prison?
Well, because
And,
people that run the laws and run the country don't think like this.
well, serial killers and rapists are working out of ego. So they're, again, they would not do that if they realized they were spiritual beings and everybody else was a spiritual being. But they're so caught up in ego that they're in the darkness and the fear, and they're acting out of the darkness and the fear, and they're doing dark things and fearful things because they're acting in the ego. So in the ego world, then people try to protect themselves from people who act out that way by putting them in jail, executing them, what have you, because they're responding with to ego with ego.
They're relating what they did to the potential for them to do it again. And we live in this ego world, and we have to protect ourselves against that, or we will be, murdered or raped or whatever. And so we have to live in this world. It's nice to believe that, that that we live in the spirit world, but we live on, our feet are on the ground here. So, you got two things going on.
Yes.
Well,
we do.
when using the phrase "we have to live here," we live here. I mean, we had a choice. We chose to come here, and yes, we're living here, so we're here in the moment. Yes, but it's not like we chose to live here.
No, we didn't. I didn't choose to live here.
Oh, I did.
You did? You told your
Yes.
mother to give birth to you when you thought about it.
I knew it.
What did you know?
Well,
I knew that when my son passed away at 39 years old, that it was inevitable. It was a contract that he and I had signed before we came to Earth. I also knew that when my mother miscarried my twin in utero, I knew then. And I'm sorry, I don't have words to be able to explain it to you. It's just a knowing. And I also knew my whole entire life, I have a purpose here. It's a feeling. And I'm trying to live out that purpose. I honestly don't even know what it is. I just know there is a purpose for me to be here.
But you
And
chose
that's
to
what
be
I mean
born.
by having a choice.
But you chose to be born.
I did.
I see.
I didn't. I'm in the Ed camp.
No.
I'm in this camp. In other words, I believe we don't choose to be born here, but we're here. So we have to deal with this anyway, one way or another. Now, I want to deal with it the best way I can for me. In the world, I cannot control everything. It's like the Stoics, the Stoics. I cannot control the wind. I cannot control the sun. I cannot control a lot of things. But whatever I can do in this world, that is to think the way I want to think, maybe create my own rainbows. I can see a rainbow. Maybe there is something at the end of the rainbow that I can follow. So it's a choice. But in the camp of Ed, I didn't choose to come here.
Okay, thank you all. Let me just simply say that the whole aim of the course is to teach us how to live as spiritual beings in the ego world. So there's no denying that we're in the ego world and that we have to deal with all of the comings and goings of the ego world. The question is, you have free will. How are you going to use it? Are you going to react out of ego, or are you going to act out of spirit? So it's a personal choice that you have to make, how you're going to deal with the ego world that you find yourself living in. Whether you chose to be here or not, you realize you're here now. So what are you going to do? Are you going to say, well, this is the ego world, so I'll just act out of ego, and if I feel like killing somebody, I'm just going to kill them? Or are you going to say, yeah, I'm in the ego world, and I know there's a lot of evil, but I'm going to choose to operate from love. I'm going to choose to operate from forgiveness. I'm going to choose to see my brothers and sisters as equal children of God. I'm going to choose. We have the choice. And the Course is trying to teach us to understand that and how to make those choices as we're dealing with living in the ego world. Paragraph 3. The darkness is in you. The Christ as revealed to you now has no past, for he is changeless, and in his changelessness lies your release. For if he is as he was created, there is no guilt in him. No cloud of guilt has risen to obscure him, and he stands revealed in everyone you meet because you see him through himself. To be born again is to let the past go and look without condemnation upon the present. The cloud that obscures God's sun to you is the past, and if you would have it past and gone, you must not see it now. If you see it now in your illusions, it has not gone from you, although it is not there. So again, seeing the Christ, which is another name for the Son of God, in everyone you see, including yourself, is the key. And you can only see that when you're doing your best to look at life through Spirit's eyes and forsake looking at life through ego's eyes. Number 4, time can release as well as imprison, depending on whose interpretation of it you use. Past, present, and future are not continuous unless you force continuity on them. You can perceive them as continuous and make them so for you, but do not be deceived and then believe that this is how it is. For to believe reality is what you would have it be according to your use of it is delusional. For to believe reality is what you would have it be according to your use of it is delusional. You would destroy time's continuity by breaking it into past, present, and future for your own purposes. You would anticipate the future on the basis of your past experience and plan for it accordingly. Yet by doing so, you are aligning past and future and not allowing the miracle, which could intervene between them to free you to be born again. Again, simply saying, understand that time is an illusion and that from Spirit's point of view, there's only now. So stop basing judgments on ego perceptions and start basing judgments and decisions on Spirit's reality. Number 5, the miracle enables you to see your brother without his past and so perceive him as born again. His errors are all past, and by perceiving him without them, you are releasing him. And since his past is yours, you share in this release. Let no dark cloud out of your past obscure him from you, for truth lies only in the present, and you will find it if you seek it there. You have looked for it where it is not, and therefore have not found it. Learn then to seek it where it is, and it will dawn on eyes that see. Your past was made in anger, and if you use it to attack the present, you will not see the freedom that the present holds. So the miracle is the miracle of forgiveness, of transformation, of moving from ego to spirit. And that can only be done in the now. And that can only be done by realizing that there's only one of us, that you are your brother and your brother is you. That whatever you do unto others, you do unto yourself, and act accordingly, and believe accordingly, and think accordingly. Number 6, judgment and condemnation are behind you, and unless you bring them with you, you will see that you are free of them. Look lovingly upon the present, for it holds the only things that are forever true. All healing lies within it, because its continuity is real. It extends to all aspects of the sonship at the same time, and thus enables them to reach each other. The present is before time was, and will be when time is no more. In it are all things that are eternal, and they are one. Their continuity is timeless, and their communication is unbroken, for they are not separated by the past. Only the past can separate, and it is nowhere. So leave judgment and condemnation behind you, and look with spirit eyes in the present. Number 7, the present offers you your brothers in the light that would unite you with them and free you from the past. Would you then hold the past against them? For if you do, you are choosing to remain in the darkness that is not there, and refusing to accept the light that is offered you. For the light of perfect vision is freely given, as it is freely received, and can be accepted only without limit. In this one still dimension of time that does not change, and where there is no sight of what you were, you look at Christ and call his witnesses to shine on you because you called them forth, and they will not deny the truth in you, because you looked for it in them and found it there. Seek and ye shall find, ask and ye shall be answered, knock and the door will be opened. That all happens in the present. Now is the time of salvation, for now is the release from time. Reach out to all your brothers and touch them with the touch of Christ. In timeless union with them is your continuity, unbroken because it is wholly shared. God's guiltless Son is only light. There is no darkness in him anywhere, for he is whole. Call all your brothers to witness to his wholeness as I am calling you to join with me. Each voice has a part in the song of redemption, the hymn of gladness and thanksgiving for the light to the Creator of light. The holy light that shines forth from God's Son is the witness that his light is of his Father.
The other day I was listening to Bob Marley, the Redemption song. Here it is in the paragraph.
Thank you. So they're saying now is the time of salvation, for now is the release from time. So they're saying that salvation is the release from time. Releasing yourself from time is your salvation. Reach out to all your brothers and touch them with the touch of the Christ, with the sonship, with the love of God. And that's what we need to do in the now. And each voice has a part. We all have our part in the song of redemption. And it's a hymn of gladness and thanksgiving for the light that is within us, the light that has made us. Ultimately, we are light. We're spirit, we're the light of God. And we need to come to realize that and embrace that while we're in the ego world. Number 9. Shine on your brothers in remembrance of your Creator, for you will remember him as you call forth the witnesses to his creation. Those whom you heal bear witness to your healing, for in their wholeness you will see your own. And as your hymns of praise and gladness rise to your Creator, he will return your thanks in his clear answer to your call. For it can never be that his Son called upon him and remained unanswered. His call to you is but your call to him, and in him you are answered by his peace. To those whom you bear witness to your healing, those whom you heal bear witness to your healing, for in their wholeness you will see your own. That's how it works. When you look with healing eyes upon other people, you're in actuality healing yourself. When you look with spirit eyes on other people, you're actually looking with spirit eyes upon yourself. Because everybody is a reflection of you. I'm a reflection of you just as you are a reflection of me. Because ultimately, there's only one of us. And that's the big lesson to learn. Number 10, child of light, you know not that the light is in you, yet you will find it through its witnesses. For having given light to them, they will return it. Each one you see in light brings your light closer to your awareness. Love always leads to love. The sick who ask for love are grateful for it, and in their joy they shine with holy thanks. And this they offer you who gave them joy. They are your guides to joy. for having received it of you, they would keep it. You have established them as guides to peace, for you have made it manifest in them. And seeing it, its beauty calls you home. Again, what you do unto others, you do unto yourself. So when you extend love and joy and healing to others, you are doing that to yourself. It's a mirror. Everybody you see is a mirror. And whatever you shine into the mirror, it comes back to you. We are children of light. Number 11. There is a light that this world cannot give, yet you can give it as it was given you. As you give it, it shines forth to call you from the world and follow it. For this light will attract you as nothing in this world can do. And you will lay aside the world and find another. This other world is bright with love, which you have given it. And here you will be everything, and here will everything remind you of your Father and his Holy Son. Light is unlimited and spreads across this world in quiet joy. All those you brought with you will shine on you, and you will shine on them in gratitude because they brought you here. Your light will join with theirs in power so compelling that it will draw the others out of darkness as you look on them. So there is a light in this that this ego world cannot give. Yet you, as a spiritual being, can give it. And as you give it and shine it forth, when you shine your spiritual's light forth into the ego world, then you will attract others that are doing the same, and you will attract and teach others to do the same. And then we'll be able to lay aside the ego world and find the world of spirit, which is bright with love. And that love just multiplies. The Course taught us chapters ago that the way to increase is to share. To increase love, you must share the love. To increase joy, you must share the joy. To increase peace, you must share the peace. That was a lesson from long ago, earlier in the Course. Number 12. Awakening unto Christ is following the laws of love of your free will and out of quiet recognition of the truth in them. The attraction of light must draw you willingly, and willingness is signified by giving. Those who accept love of you become your willing witnesses to the love you gave them, and it is they who hold it out to you. In sleep you are alone, and your awareness is narrowed to yourself. And that is why the nightmares come. You dream of isolation because your eyes are closed. You do not see your brothers, and in the darkness you cannot look upon the light you gave them. That's all explaining what's happening in the ego world. So awakening unto the Christ, unto the spirit world, is following the laws of life of your own free will. Spirit will never force itself upon us. We must use our free will to choose. That is the law. That is cosmic law. Nobody can do it for you but yourself. You have to choose. You have to use your free will to choose spirit over ego. That's the only way it's going to happen. When in sentence 4, when it says, in sleep you are alone, that's the same as saying in ego you are alone. In ego, your awareness is narrowed only to yourself. And that's where the nightmares come. Your dream of isolation, that's the ego. Because of eyes that are closed. Your eyes are closed in the ego, your true eyes, not your physical eyes, but your spiritual eyes. If you don't see your brothers as spiritual beings, then you're in the darkness, and you won't be able to see the light that is within them and within yourself. So our last paragraph, number 13. And yet the laws of love are not suspended because you sleep. And you have followed them through all your nightmares and have been faithful in your giving, for you were not alone. Even in sleep has Christ protected you, ensuring the real world for you when you awake. In your name he has given for you and given you the gifts he gave. God's Son is still as loving as his Father. Continuous with his Father, he has no past apart from him. So he has never ceased to be his Father's witness and his own. Although he sleeps, Christ's vision did not leave him. And so it is that he can call unto himself the witnesses that teach him that he never slept. And yet the laws of love are not suspended because you sleep. And you have followed them through all your nightmares and have been faithful in your giving. That's the laws of love. You have followed the laws of life through all of the laws of love through all of your nightmares, and you never were alone. Because even in sleep, the Christ, the Spirit, has protected you, ensuring the spirit world for you when you awake from ego. In your name, he has given for you and given you the gifts he gave. God's Son, that's you. You are still as loving as your Father. Continuous with your Father, you have no past apart from him. So you have never ceased to be your Father's witness and your own. Although you sleep, Christ's vision did not leave you. And so it is that you can call unto yourself the witnesses that teach you that you never slept. And that's the Course has taught us over and over again, that the sleeping of the ego is an illusion. It's not real. It never really happened. We just think that it did. In reality, We've always been eternal spiritual beings, and we just appear to be physical bodies in this ego dream, in this ego illusion. And what we need to do is free ourselves. And the book is a course on how to do that. We have reached the end of our reading, and we're very close to the end of our hour, but you may unmute, and if you have any reflections to share about our reading tonight.
In the last paragraph, John, it seems to me the way I feel about this is because I know how the book ends. I've read it before, and I'm sorry to spoil it for everybody, but it says at the very end, God only sees love. He never even sees anything else other than the love for us. And so I think that this last paragraph is stating that in another way.
Yes, actually, the Course has said that right from the beginning, that God does not see the ego world as a dream, as a nightmare happening in our minds. From God's point of view, it doesn't even exist. And the Course has said that many times, right up until the end. Anyone else?
And I appreciate that, but when God gets hungry and he needs a sandwich, see, we live here, and God doesn't live here. God observes us, essentially the way I see it. And we're still dealing with stuff in the shovel, so to speak. And it's hard to look upon somebody whose actions can be a difficulty for you in the future based on the observance by you and others of their behavior. It's hard to look upon somebody with love if they're not even going to perceive it. They're not even going to appreciate it.
I agree with that, Ed. It's very, very difficult. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And what happens during the process of this book, for me anyway, was that there was a lot of undoing. So I let a lot of judgment go within myself and others, things that held me against achieving this living in the moment, being one with God, or however I want to say it. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is not an easy thing to work with. I mean, it's easy to work with because I think she's pretty clear in the way she states things, and the way God states things through her, but it's not an easy task.
No, not at all. No, I can appreciate what the book is telling me, but on the other hand, these people who are not aware of and behaving like they are aware of, you're not going to change that. We're going to have to live with it. We're going to have to live with 90% of the stuff we see going on out there. We can't change it.
That's correct.
But we're going to experience it one way or another. When a certain party starts loading up different departments in our government with people who have these ideas that are adverse, when we have these corporations that are running this country with nothing but greed, and these people doing a little stepping stone thing that they're going from one level of government to the other, and they're, the system is sadly screwed up. I mean, we've got, the Citizens
Absolutely
United,
correct,
and
John.
yeah,
Ed.
so I mean, we're having to live with this stuff every day, but I can appreciate the book. But on the other hand, this is a reality that we're living with every day, and it's, I can't ignore it.
The key word that you used, Ed, was change. And the only thing that one can change is within themselves. The other word that you used, I thought was pretty potent, was the word greed. And so that's a massive brick wall to penetrate.
Exactly.
However, we may not be able to do it within this, it will take generations to perhaps fulfill this book. My concern is that I do it, that I do my share, what they were talking about here earlier in a couple of paragraphs, that
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm shedding light on the people that I come into contact. Any light that I have, I'm sharing it, whether they like it or not. I'm kidding.
Thank you,
man.
Ellen. Yes, Ed, you're not going to be able to change the world. I'm not going to be able to change the ego world either. But what I can change is myself and how I think and how I grow into my spiritual self, into my spiritual reality. And that's what the book is teaching. To be so concerned about what others are doing and the negativity that they're throwing off is it's not the point of that you're going to be able to work miracles to change them. The miracle is that you change yourself. And that's where the focus has to be. You have to change your own mind in realizing that you are a spiritual being and that you use your free will to offer love and peace and joy to whomever and whenever and wherever you can, for your own evolvement. And as you do that, you are helping the world to become better. The whole world is not going to become better unless each and every individual within the world goes through this process. Just stop and think about that for a moment. If everybody on the planet realized that they were a spiritual being and acted from that realization, there would be no war, there would be no greed, there would be no hunger, there would be no homelessness, there would be no factories polluting stuff, because people would not do that when they're operating from their spiritual selves. And so for each and every one of us that individually achieves that goal, we are helping the whole gestalt of the world to change. But that's the only way the whole world can change, is one individual at a time. So I can't be concerned about what others are doing with their free will. I only have control over what I'm doing with my free will.
I can understand that.
Anyway, thank you very much. Fight the illusion. Have a beautiful,
for joining us,
wonderful,
Ben.
and thank you. Don't forget that to remember, because we forget.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for remembering us every day, every moment, every second. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, folks, let's have a moment of silence and we'll stop the recording.